let's just say it. The internet is kind of important these days. But what would happen if it went away for an entire week? Well, let's find out in today's video. Lost connections. When researching a topic, it's good to start with broad sources and work your way down to more specific ones. We have everything from encyclopedias to academic journals at our fingertips. So let's see how we can use them. So what exactly is the internet? It's a worldwide network of computers that are connected together and allow communication across the globe. This allows us to communicate, research, and share information instantly. And we depend on this technology for many aspects of our daily lives. If we were to shut down the internet for a week, what would happen? There has never been a global internet shutdown, but there have been localized outages that give us clues as to what could happen. What words come to mind when you think about the internet going down? Let's go back to our encyclopedia and see what they have to say. They have a whole entry dedicated to the internet. News articles are a great resource for learning about recent events. We can search for keywords like internet outage and cyber attack to see what comes up. One article titled Critical National Infrastructure: Protection Against Cyber Attacks. The authors explain how an attack on critical infrastructure could have devastating consequences. They also discuss the need for collaboration between government and private industry to ensure the security of our systems. When researching for this paper, I learned that the internet is more fragile than I thought. I also learned that an outage, no matter how long, is very unlikely. But hey, now we know. Another article titled Assessing the Resilience of the Internet looks at the resilience of the internet in the face of disruptions. The authors discuss the potential impact of a large-scale internet outage and highlight the need for redundancy and diversification in our networks. They're also usually written in a style that's easy to read. We learned that an outage could disrupt communications, cause financial losses, and even impact critical infrastructure. One article titled The World Without Google Search talks about what would happen if Google Search, one of the most popular internet services, went down for a day. Do we want to look at the impact on a specific industry, like healthcare or finance? Now we need to organize it in a way that makes sense. A great way to do this is to create an outline. The main idea of the paper will go in the introduction. This is where we'll state our thesis. Our thesis statement should include our main argument or the point we want to make in our paper. We'll develop our arguments and provide evidence in the body paragraphs. Each paragraph should have a clear topic sentence that explains how it supports our thesis. Finally, we'll wrap up our paper with a conclusion. In the conclusion, we'll summarize our main points and restate our thesis in new and interesting ways. Or maybe we want to focus on the impact on individuals. Once we've decided how we want to narrow our focus, we can go back to our databases and search for more specific keywords. For example, if we were interested in the impact on healthcare, we might search for keywords like internet outage and hospitals. The author imagines a world without Google where people have to rely on other search engines or even libraries to find information. Another article titled The Internet Goes Down and Your Business Suffers talks about the economic impact of an internet outage. The author highlights how businesses rely on the internet to operate and how an outage can lead to financial losses. While these articles give us some insight into what could happen if the internet went down, they're still not specific enough. The internet has become so ingrained in society that it has its own Wikipedia page. The entry describes what the internet is and gives a brief history of its development. But more importantly, it discusses the impact the internet has had on our lives. The encyclopedia explains that the internet has revolutionized the way we communicate, do business, and access information. They even have a section that talks about the negative effects of the internet, such as cybercrime and the spread of misinformation. While this is a good start, we're looking for something a little bit more specific. We want to know what would happen if the internet went down for a week. How about connection, communication, network, or infrastructure? These are all great starting points for our research. If you're having trouble thinking of keywords, try asking yourself what, why, when, and how. These are all good questions to ask when researching a topic. Each one can help you come up with relevant keywords to add to your list. Well, first off, we wouldn't be able to watch videos or scroll through social media, which would definitely be a letdown. But beyond that, it would cause major disruptions in our world. A DNS or domain name system translates domain names like YouTube.com into IP addresses that computers can understand, allowing them to connect to each other. So without DNS, you're unable to access websites. Imagine trying to type in an IP address every time you wanted to look at a website. Not easy. Without this translation, people couldn't access things like their bank accounts, email, or social media. They couldn't book flights or reserve hotel rooms, and they couldn't even call 911 because phone companies rely on the internet to route calls. This outage might not have been global, but it had real consequences for those affected by it. To better understand this, we need some context. When was the last time the internet went down? Well, not ever actually. In 2016, a major DNS outage in the United Kingdom cut off thousands of people from accessing the internet for several hours. Now imagine if this outage lasted for a week. You probably know someone who has tried to quit social media before. It's tough, right? Even a few days without your favorite apps feels like a long time. But what if it was longer, like an entire week? In 2021, India decided to test this out by shutting down its internet for the longest period ever. The country cut off mobile and fixed internet for 48 hours in the disputed region of Kashmir. While this was done to prevent militant activity, it also impacted the lives of ordinary citizens. People were unable to contact emergency services or access banking services. Businesses suffered due to the lack of connectivity, and people struggled to keep up with current events as news websites were inaccessible. So we know that localized internet outages can have devastating effects. But what about a global one? Well, let's take a look at some keywords first. Now that we have a list of keywords, we can look at our resources to see what they have to offer. So let's move on to our next step and look at some news articles. So let's move on to our next step and search a specialized database like Academic Search Complete. We're starting to see a pattern here. An internet shutdown, whether intentional or accidental, could have serious consequences. Now that we have a better understanding of the topic, we can decide how we want to narrow our focus. Throughout our research, we've gathered a lot of information. The best part of writing a research paper is getting to learn something new. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.